quick live to let you know that the second part of the Summoning the Self course is now out. It's available from my website, if I may, which is called SpartanLifeCoach.com. My name is Richard Grantham, Richard Gamon, and my website is SpartanLifeCoach.com. And the course is called the Summoning the Self course. This is a course for anybody who feels like in order to get through life, be in the world, they have to viciously edit themselves. They have to supplicate. They have to be submissive to the needs of others. They have to abrogate the responsibility of claiming what they want by supplanting what they want with what other people want. And so it moves way beyond codependency. It moves into the realm of basically finding moral courage. The moral courage to stand by what you believe. The moral courage to set boundaries. To call out injustice when you see it, regardless of the consequence. And the moral courage to say no. Particularly to evil when you see evil, which is not easy. It's not easy. If you know that the consequences to you could be really bad, it's tough. So the premise of the course is that some people have been so browbeaten, so traumatized, so put upon for such a length of time that they've actually started to operate from a false self because they've been trained and conditioned into feeling that if they operate with authenticity and vulnerability and tell the truth of who they are and live the truth of who they are, that they'll be punished for it. So they hide their true self far away. And that continues for years. It's an effective survival strategy in traumatic situations, but unfortunately, effective survival strategies in traumatic situations, unchecked, become lifestyle habits. And they're very maladaptive, they're very, very costly, and they can lead to a whole host of issues. It makes life very, very difficult to live. So the first part of that course was released, I think, 3 months ago. If you buy the course now, you get the first half, and you get the second section, and you also get access to a question and answer section. It's a very basic forum where you can ask each other questions, you can discuss stuff, and you can ask me questions, and I'll be on there Monday to Friday answering the questions via text, via the writing. I can't speak English. Via writing, via typing out my answers. And then a couple of times a week, I'm going to do some video uploads that answer questions that are curated by the people who are helping me to run that particular course. And that will be based on which questions we prioritize that we think we're going to offer the most impact to the most people who are involved. So that course is now out and it's available. And if you want it, you can go and get it. Now that we are here together in time and space, I will answer some questions. If you have a question, if you could make it one sentence long and end in a question mark, it would be better for me, and it would be better for you, and it would be for the highest good of all concerned. Neon Heart says, good evening from Germany. Good evening. I've bought the emotional literacy course, but haven't done it yet. Should I finish that before this new course? Yes. This new course is not easy. I recommend that people have done at least 30 days of emotional literacy work first, because it's very, very direct. So if your emotional literacy is strong, you've always got that to fall back on. That will make you more resilient, and you'll be like, okay, something came up, but I already know how to process my emotions. I'm comfortable doing that, so that's fine. But if you've not done, you really should have done like 30 days of emotional literacy. If I'm going to give it a number, I'm going to say 15 maps, diagrams should have been drawn, so that you know how to, you're not frightened of sitting there and going, okay, how do I actually feel about this? What's coming up for me? And then processing it. That would be my recommendation. Does the course help with finding your purpose? It does if what's eluding you from finding your purpose is that you're not permitted to be you. If that's the thing that's blocking you from finding your purpose, is that you're not allowed to be you unedited, which it is for the most people why they can't find their purpose, is because they're too heavily edited, then yes, it absolutely will help. Hey, why are you not answering me? Says Zaid Tanim. Well, there are a bunch of questions popping up. And so, yes, I will look for your question now, Zaid. Are you ever coming back to Dallas? I hope so, one day. The course is called Summoning the Self. Zaid asks, how to get out of freeze response and get into fight response in danger, either verbal or physically. I wouldn't recommend that you train yourself to go from one trauma response to another trauma response. Before I understood CPTSD, I used to train people to do exactly that, to go from freeze to fight. But it's not healthy, it's maladaptive, and you're not operating from choice. The fight, freeze, flight responses are largely unconscious. And I don't want you operating largely unconsciously, especially in situations of danger and conflict. You need to be very conscious, very aware, and very fluid. So we don't use primal trauma responses to deal with situations of high risk. It's a bad idea. And I deeply regret spending from 2005 to 2014 doing largely that, but I didn't know any better. I was completely ignorant. It works, you can do it, it's just not good for you, and you can get in all kinds of trouble. If you actually set up a fight response, if you connect fight response to like a situation of physical threat, you are so likely to over-respond, and you'll win that fight. What happens if you win that fight, and then you end up going to the big man house for 8 years of your life? Is that a win? So you won like a fist fight outside a bar, and then you go to the big man house for 8 years? That's not a win. That's not good. That's really, really tragic. Really tragic. Fulgore says fight is still better than freeze. That sounds like you're just being completely contrary to what it is that I'm saying. So, zibbidi-boo, which is how I answer people being contrary. Now, zibbidi-boo at you. We will have to agree to disagree on that one. Richard Grannon, question. I like questions that begin with the word question. I think Beyonce would like it. And that's important. Will you make us all a Discord channel to stay in touch for accountability, pretty please? No. You'll have to keep yourselves accountable without me doing that. I don't know the Discord. I don't want to know the Discord. I think I would like less channels, not more. So no, I 100% won't be doing that. But feel free to do whatever you want on whatever channel or app or grammage you want. And people will come there and discuss with you. The thing is, like, if it's run by me, you're going to be stuck on my videos and my content. And if you go, I don't know, if your interest is like overcoming CPTSD or whatever, and you create your own channel that's sort of like it's inspired by me, and then you want to share a bunch of videos from other people, then you can, can't you? So you've got more freedom if I'm not involved, and you can make it your own thing, and yeah, do that. It's probably healthier for you to do that. Cut the apron strings, or whatever the expression is. EM says, I have finally saved up enough money to move out of a bad situation and I'm trying to decide where to move. Okay. Does believing that you're under someone else's control make you function unconsciously? I don't know what you mean by being under somebody else's control and the word believe there. Like, you're either, you know that you're under somebody else's control because practically, financially, or physically you're under their control, or are you saying you're not under their control but you just believe that they are? But if you're not under their control and you just believe that they are, you don't really believe that you are. So I don't know what you're asking me, or it's too late at night and my brain's not fast enough. It could be me, it could be you. Are you going to watch the new Patrice O'Neill documentary? Oh, for certain, sure I am. Is it out yet? When's Von releasing her one? Lol. Lul, lol, lamau. Who is lamau? Who is lamfao? Question. Would it help you if I went back and summarized the days of the 30-day challenge I missed summarizing? I'd be happy to. At least I could do for you. You've given us all. I liked your summaries very much. Other people liked your summaries. It's nice when you turn up on a video and it's got a summary there, and timestamps and all that type of stuff. But yeah, if you want to and it would help you, do it. If it wouldn't, then don't. Don't turn it into a job. The ones that you did spontaneously were wonderful. If it became like a chore you had to do, it probably wouldn't be very pleasant for you. But generally speaking, for everybody watching, if you're watching a video of mine and you're liking it, and you post a summary there and timestamp things, that can be helpful for other people. So yeah, go for it. Go for it. Murph Dog says, hi, you are amazing. Thank you. I agree. I'm amazing. I tell myself that every day. Richard, you are amazing. So let's see. Oh, I wiped out some questions there. People are sending me money. You don't need to send me money, guys, but I appreciate it. But that's okay. You don't need to do that. MD, question. Have you ever used a weapon in a street fight? With a weapon with a street fight. I used a nunchaku. What is this, 2008? What? Did you think you landed on streetfightsecrets.com? Homie, they deleted Street Fight Secrets YouTube in 2013. What is that? 8 years ago? It's a long time gone. I ever use a weapon in a street fight? I don't. No. I am a weapon. My hands are weapons. Don't think so. You know the stands for if you have a VIP area and there's a velvet rope. I remember in Uxbridge, outside of London, it's like West London. I was working on a club called Liquid, and there were these two female human entities. Well, they might have been demons or zombies. I'm not sure which. They certainly appeared as young females anyway, and they were attacking me like this. And I got this stand with a wide base on it, and I was pushing them back with it and saying, "Get back!" Like they were lions. Yeah, that's it. I don't think fucking hell, silly times. I can't believe we used to do that for a living. Did that for years. So silly, such silly times. Yeah, weapons. Nah, don't think so. Oh, it's not. Peace and love, man. Get back. Exactly. I am the lion tamer. Yeah. Question: who are you mimicking when you fake your Irish accent? Lol. That's actually not an Irish accent per se. It's a Scouse accent, and I'm not mimicking. That's my actual accent. This voice and this accent I'm doing now is a learned, cultivated way of speaking to people not from the area where I'm from. My natural accent isn't strong. I don't have like a broad Scouse accent, but the one I'm doing now is the fake one for when I talk to anybody who's not from England. or Ireland, because it's not a nice sounding accent particularly, and it's not particularly comprehensible, and it's hard to talk about. It sounds funny if you start talking about psychology and philosophy in a broad Scouse accent. The accent doesn't really lend itself to in-depth analysis via the Freudian model of the occult. It just sounds a bit funny, but it's not Irish per se, but we are all second, third generation Irish immigrants who came over for work. D. Williams says, his Scousey voice is sexy AF. UG Rose, I came into Rich recalling a 7 of Wands dream of battling succubi. Yes, I was battling succubi. I can't remember anything else of that night. You know, it's really sad. I went through this whole memory pack last night of my nights doing door work around the world. And it just all came out in this mat. And I was like, oh, wow, yeah, I did. Oh, yeah, I remember that. And I was getting really vivid memories of like gyms I'd been in and bars I'd worked in and people I'd worked with. And I was getting this like, I don't know, I got tapped on the head last night or something. I could remember the flavor of, there's in New Zealand, they do a type of candy it's quite gross actually. It's a chocolate covered fish. And I would buy that, and the guy who ran the bar I was on in this is it, like near Browns Bay. Can't remember the name of the bar. He was he was an Indian South African, and he was diabetic, but he loved these little fish. And I'd say to him, "Would you like a little fish?" And he'd say, "I will have a little fish," because he had Indian, South African, and New Zealand accent, and he would say, "I will have a little fish." But he was diabetic. So this is a funny story about me poisoning a man to death. Anyway, yeah, these thoughts, they all came back in a rush last night. I was thinking, wow, that's mad that I used to do that for a living. I used to do that for £9 an hour. Wrestle around on the floor with drunks. Really weird. It's a really weird thing. Why did the David Icke interview get taken down? I don't know. Why did the David Icke interview get taken down? Sounds like the beginning of a joke. Because we live in a liberal democracy that values free speech. YouTube is just a platform, and we are just its content providers. There's no employment contract. It's a private company, and they can do what they want. It's on BitChute, apparently. A couple of nice people put it on BitChute. So if you put Ike Grannon into BitChute, you'll find it there. It was a good interview. I really enjoyed it. It was nice chatting to David. Richard, can you do Geordie? Nope. I lived, I used to play racquetball. I lived in, it wasn't Geordie land. Where was it? Oh, another bay. Whitley Bay, not Browns Bay. Whitley Bay. I lived in Whitley Bay for a while, and I used to play racquetball there. And yeah, no, I can't. I mean, I don't even know if I'd call it an accent. That's like, it's like some affliction, some virus, some alien virus that hits people. But I like it. I like hearing it. Joe Brown says, I downloaded it, so nah, YouTube, haha to them. The False Critic says, Richard, I processed trauma with emotional literacy. It was a great relief, but now I feel numb. What do I do? Just wait a couple of days. The thing is with real therapeutic shifts and progress, it can feel a bit strange. So you say numb. The way I've felt in the past is a bit cold. And it was always like, oh, you know, if the mind and the body is one thing and it's the Hermetic principle, as above, so below, it would be like that bit of pain that I've lived with there. It sort of kept that part of the body warm. And even though it was twisted up and it was a burden and it was heavy and it was, I'd learned to live around it. So yeah, I limped. And yeah, I moved funny. And yeah, I breathed funny. And then it was taken away. And I was like, oh, that's great. That's great. And then I was like, oh, so I'm not limping anymore. So I'm not doing this anymore. I'm just like this. I'm just standing. And it feels a bit cold. to be unburdened by trauma, because you're in a new altitude. You've just gone up. You didn't want to, you didn't ask to, you just wanted to get rid of the pain, but you were suppressed and the engine still runs, and then you're not suppressed, and then you shift altitude. So you can get numbness. It can actually be stressful. Therapeutic process can be stressful. Even the consequences, when they're positive, can be stressful. So it's just wonderful, isn't it? It's just a box. It's just a bowl of cherries all the way. It will pass. You will feel normal again, but it will take some time. There's probably some cold air hitting that old wound, which is part of the healing process as well. So the relief was part of the healing process, and that felt good. So you're like, oh, it feels good. That's progress. And then what comes afterwards doesn't feel so good, and you're like, ooh, maybe this isn't progress. It is progress. It is progress. So numbness, coldness, feeling like you're in an alien landscape or in unknown territory, or you've broken a taboo, or you've done something a bit naughty, like feeling guilty for therapeutic process. Very common, very common. We've got psychotherapists and counsellors who watch the channel, and if that is something that you agree with, please post in the comments. It will lend some validity and offer a bit of validity to what I'm saying, and it'll offer relief to the people who've experienced that as well. I'd appreciate that. I am County Durham. You're not from County Durham. You are literally the land of County Durham. Goodness, it is an honour that County Durham itself is listening to me. How do you detox from work-based narcs? Gosh, I don't know. I don't know how that would work. A work-based narc. Yeah, it sounds like a really shit cocktail. I don't know how you detox from that. Richard Cronin, question. Re-Scouch, do you have or have you ever watched the Scottish show on Netflix, Still Game? Indian guy with double accent running a convenience store. No, I haven't watched Still Game. I'll give that a go. It's Scouse, Scouse, and it comes from a Scandinavian word for a fish-based stew that sailors ate called lobscouse. And I think like this group of people, the shipbuilders and sailors in that part of the country were identified. They're the ones who eat lobscouse, so they're Scousers. Yuji Rose says, hit the like, please. Thank you, Yuji. That's great. I lived in Scotland for a while. I've lived in a few places. Where was I? Darville and East Kilbride as well. I quite like Scotland. I like the accent up there. What topic do you and David Icke disagree on? He thinks soccer is a good and worthwhile pastime, and I don't. I fucking hate football. I can't begin to express to you, as an English man, how difficult a position I am in. I loathe beer, and I fucking detest football. I've had pro football players as clients, and they'll talk to me about football. I'll be like, I've got to stop you there. I fucking hate football, and I don't want to know. I don't care. And it's difficult because you go to other parts of the world and you have a taxi driver or a barman or a waiter, and they want to connect with you. Where are you from? I'll go, oh, I'm from the world. Where's that? Well, it's near Liverpool. Oh, Liverpool, you did very good in the thing on the Tuesday when you played against blah, blah, blah. And I'll be like, I just don't care. I don't say that to them. I'm like, did we? Yeah, that's great. I love that we did well. Bunch of like 80% team that isn't even from Liverpool, who were paid an obscene amount of money to kick a ball around, but we did well. Pull the other one, it's got bells on it. Question, is wonder a value? I suppose it could be. That would be strange though, if you lived your life around wanting to feel wonder. That sounds like you're Terence McKenna. Like you've done a lot of mushrooms and you really value just going, wow. Yeah, wonder's a value, I suppose. Sort of maybe would change it to like appreciation or something. But you know what you mean by wonder. So as we code language, you've got the objective marketplace where we all agree what the words mean, and then we have our subjective experience outside the circle of what it means to us. And wonder means something to you. It means something specific. In the neurolinguistic programming sense, it will be a... Shit. This is embarrassing. I'll tell you what, I'll do this publicly on a live video. I'll have total flipping amnesia. I remember the concept because I can see the shape of the concept. I think it's called a trance word. So for some people, they'll have a word that when they say, it sets them off into a miniature hypnotic episode. It's perfectly normal. It could be the word mother or dog or press-up handles or I don't know, whatever it is. And in your head, you'll go wonder, and then maybe there'll be like internal representations that flash of like watching shooting stars and seeing a sunset and looking at a huge and beautiful tree and hearing music, and then you feel something, and that means something to you. So yeah, in your worldview, wonder is value. To me, I'm outside of it, and I'm pedantic with language, and I'm like, well, you can't just have a state of not knowing and feeling awe as a value, but you can. But I might interpret it differently. I might be like, I really value feeling awe or humility in the face of the things that I find wonderful, which is really, in my case, it would be nature, it would be natural phenomena. I'd be like, wow, that's awe-inspiring, that's beautiful, that's wonderful, that fills me with wonder, it's wonderful, it's awesome. So yeah. Humility, appreciation, a sense of wonder. Sure, why not? You could build a whole religious perspective around that. Do you recommend Paul Mckenna? Paul McKenna, yeah. People can slide down into trance now. I think if you're looking, it depends what you mean for. If you want to learn classic hypnosis, yeah, I would recommend Paul McKenna. If you want to learn like how to do hypnosis the old-fashioned way, and I don't mean old-fashioned in a disparaging way at all. That's my favorite way, classic hypnosis. Then yes, absolutely. And of course, NLP. He's been working with Bandler. My God, he was working with Bandler since I was 17. He's been working with Bandler a long time, so he knows his stuff for sure. The general NLP perspective on childhood trauma is do I have an option not to say problematic? I don't want to use that adjective. The NLP orthodoxy is that childhood trauma, if you are still experiencing the effects of childhood trauma, then that's something that you're doing wrong. Even to the extent of saying, oh, the person was cruel to you in childhood, now you're still doing it. That means you're being cruel to yourself. It casts emotional flashbacks as being like a strategy. In NLP terms, it would be a strategy that we run in adulthood. And I think there was a certain time where I understood what they were trying to say when they said that. It's basically saying take agency, take responsibility, and reclaim that space. But they still say it now. Last time I heard them say it was 2019. And I was in a room of 500 people, and it's so out of step. I'm not one for political correctness and wokeness, as you know, but I'm like, you really shouldn't say that to people. Nothing to do with political correctness and wokeness. It's just not correct. It's just not the right thing to say. But yeah, generally speaking, great. He's and I think he's, as far as I can tell, well-intentioned chap, wants to help people, wants to, wants people to do well. So yeah, for sure. I'd like to see NLP move on. I'd like to see NLP develop and grow. As far as I could tell, the first time I saw Bandler was the same as the second time I saw Bandler, and there was 18 years in between the two times, both in London. And I was like, you've had 18 years to move this to, Talk about resting on your fucking laurels, lad. Where do you see humanity in 20 years' time? You think we have 20 years? We're either in pods or we're riding donkeys. I don't know. Honestly, don't know. Okay, there was another question. Do you think you hate soccer because your narcissist loved it or a trauma transferred? I hate how much other people get hysterical over it. I think it's the dumbest, crudest manipulation of basic human instincts, and people are proud of it. And I'm like, it's just another tax for the working class. It's just another way of wresting money from the working classes. And it's bread and circuses. It's a complete fucking distraction from the real issues. Yeah, I'm a fucking Millwall fan. Yeah, I love Chelsea. Oh, I love Manchester. What are you saying? Listen to yourselves. You're talking about random geographical locations in the United Kingdom that are run by multi-million-pound corporations that pay players who are from everywhere in the world a huge amount of money to kick a ball around. What's not to hate? It's just loathsome. The whole thing is just absolutely loathsome. Of course, I did help those players and I did take some of their money, Frodo. Comrade, I did not invent capitalism, I just work within system. Are you as high as a Pritt stick? No, I'm completely sober. I don't know when the last time I had a drink was. Probably about 10 days ago. Are you talking about football? Yes, I am. You got a problem with that? Does emotional literacy help people on the autism spectrum? I've no idea. I would rather not talk about autism or really any other mental health issue outside of the narrow band of narcissism and borderline personality disorder and psychopathy. And even then, I'd rather not talk about them. If I'm given the choice. If you ask me, I'll try and construct an answer. CPTSD, recovery from CPTSD, happy to talk about, but as I understand it, there is an ongoing sort of debate about the discrete boundaries of autism and what the term even means now. So I'd rather not touch it. You should speak to a specialist, a qualified mental health professional who specializes in that. Question, have you heard of Michael Tellinger's Contributionism Party? Worth checking him out. I have not. Favorite British city? I really hate cities, I really, really, really don't like cities. Favorite British city? I'd probably say London. Like if you can do a walk, like if you ever have the freedom to do it again in this lifetime, if you can do a nighttime walking tour of old London, I recommend it purely for the history. But I hate being in London. I can't stand it. But it's a fascinating, really, really fascinating city, and a very important city globally. And the history of that goes back a long time, which is interesting as well. Humans. How do you deal with the guilt of ways you've hurt others, acting out your mental illness before treatment? I never really did much, thankfully, that was really, really bad to innocent people. I managed to find a way of finding people who were not innocent. And most of the stuff that I did was physically violent. So I would be fighting with physically violent men who like fighting. And it's like, I just couldn't possibly bring myself to feel bad about that. guys swaggering round, acting like they're the hardest thing ever. Well, if I punch them up, and they're known bullies as well, if I punch them up, I don't lose a fucking wink of sleep over that. There have been times in my life though where my sense of humour has been gone the wrong way, and it's been too blunt and too harsh. And there's a couple of incidents where I really made mistakes. One of them was at university, and there was a young couple, and they were quite shy. And I made a joke in front of, I think I was about 19. I was in the room next to them, and I made a joke about them shagging loudly. And I did it in front of other people. And I thought that they'd be proud of it and they would laugh. And they were fucking mortified. And I was like, oh shit. I didn't read the room well on that one at all. They were really hurt by that. So it wasn't even what I said. It was the effect I had on them. I was like, oh fuck me. Yeah, it was like, I hope the earth swallows me up. Just trying to be funny. But it wasn't funny. Richard, naughty. No. He gets super mean to me, but I know it's his mental state. He's a great person. I don't know what that's in reference to. Okay, just stay away from humans and you will be healthy physically and mentally. Says Charles. Yeah, I'm leaning more and more towards that view. I think it's age. I think I'm becoming more and more misanthropic. I'm not even sure I want Team Human to win. I'm a bit like, I don't know, maybe we could do with a loss. Do you know what I mean? I'll take it back. When it starts happening, I'll be like, oh no, I only meant it theoretically. I didn't mean it really. But yeah. I don't know where I stand on that one now. Like, do I really want to help people? Really? I mean, are people good? Are they? But are they? Yes, they're fundamental, but are they though? I'm only joking. Do you believe in spiritual happiness through relations with people? It's not a term I would usually use, spiritual happiness. So I think that has a meaning for you, but I don't know the nuance of what that meaning is. Spiritual, I wouldn't put the word spiritual and happiness together, because do you want the fucking hour-long lecture on why I don't think spiritual and happiness belong together? Slavoj Žižek said it the best for me, that happiness, let me soften his words, happiness is a redundant category. It's not a particularly meaningful category, and it's certainly not a meaningful category in the context of spirituality. So I would just say I wouldn't even put those two things together. But it means something to you that's different to that. And maybe you do in relations with people. And so if you do, then that's cool. That's cool. There's nothing that needs fixing if it's not broke. Is there a part of you that's ready to let the main channel and all of its contents go? Part of me? No. All of me? Yes. This is a mutated thing that came from a completely different intention 8 years ago when I was a very, very different human being. And, you know, culture's changed, life has changed, YouTube itself has changed. And I won't bore everybody because I've already told you on this channel a number of times, like I really do think psychology is a dead end. I'll still use it, I'll still refer to it. But overall, I have, if you would say to me, I'm going to try and bring meaning back to my life solely through psychology, I would say good luck. Good luck. I'll see you in 8 years. And in 8 years' time, you'll come to the same conclusion as me. It's a poisonous ideology. And you say it's not an ideology, it's a field of study. No, it's an ideology. So would I let it go? Yeah, I'd let it all go. I'd let it all go. I've had everything taken away from me before. I've had everything, every single thing taken away from me before. And it's not, I'm still me. I'm still here. So no, I'm just not that attached to it. I'm more concerned with my physical health. I'm more concerned with my mental health. Things start affecting my physical and mental health, they go out the door. And they go out the door right quick because I've only got one life. I can make a new YouTube channel. I can't make new knees. I can't make new time. I can't do that. And so, yeah, I don't know. If it needs to go, it will go. I found you in 2014 and you've really lightened since then. It's a journey for sure. Yeah, well, I was very sick. Didn't really know how damaged I was because I just sort of muddled through. And I was in a lot of pain. I was in a huge amount of pain, but I didn't know. I had no way of knowing. And so it's only after it passed I went, oh, right. Okay, that's where I was. So, yeah. How strong are you at the bench, squat, and deadlift? And I could just about make out your picture, and it looks like you're posing with your top off like this. Deadlift, I would only ever do Romanian deadlift. And I wouldn't go over 70 kg, and I'd just do it until I felt like it was done. Bench, I don't really bench. I find it very uncomfortable for my wrists and my shoulders. If you mean flat bench with a barbell, which of course you do. So I use dumbbells, and I'm strong with dumbbells. Can bang out the 50 kgs for decent reps, for a decent amount of sets. Squatting, because of my back and my knee, I would only ever do with kettlebells and dumbbells. So I'm afraid I don't have the answers you're looking for, sir. Sorry about that. I just finished that book, Wherever You Go, There You Are. Awesome read by John Kabat-Zinn. Lovely. What's your favourite yoga pose? I'm a fan of pigeon. Don't know. I like just sitting there and kneeling. I don't think that is yoga, is it? Favourite place in the world? New Zealand was lovely, yeah. New Zealand was a very special place. Do you still move around a lot, state to state or town to town? Less. People are calling me out on it now because I've been in the Czech Republic for a while. They're like, "Why haven't you gone to Spain?" And I'm like, "Well, what? I've got stuff to do. Every time I move, I'm not doing what I should be doing." So this is the first time I've felt compelled. Not compelled. I'm just not gonna move just because I can. So the desire to move around is ebbing. Gypsy life, eh? The old gypsy blood. I've put my caravan down to one side. Are you trying to escape the lockdown? No. There's nowhere in Europe where you can escape lockdown. Nowhere. I mean, I think it's been easier in Sweden and it's been easier in some parts of Spain. But no, you can't escape lockdown. The only reason for traveling before was because I wanted to go to America to see my sister and see the babies before the vaccine passports came in, which they will this year. And I knew that I had to go. And in order to go there, I had to go through different countries because of the laws America had on getting into America. So did that, and now I'm back here. The kneeling pose is called celibate pose. Fuck off, it's not, is it? My favourite yoga pose is the celibate pose. Is it really? Would you pick red pill or blue pill? Literally in the Matrix. If I was in the Matrix and it was tin can with smelly outcasts or just keep dreaming, yeah, I'd just blue pill it, homie. It's like, I'd be like Cypher. I'd be like, make me something cool, like a rock star or something. Just give me that blue pill. What if I told you, not interested in your war and your rebellion? Thanks. Give me the blue pill. Richard, do you think that NPD can be succeeded genetically? I generally lean away from genetic explanations of most mental health disorders and personality issues. Not to say that there isn't a genetic factor. That would defy reason. There must be a genetic factor. I just, like if we're playing an academic game and you're asking me academically, I would start from a skeptical position that would lean away from it. And when people come to me with a sort of a genetic point of view, I just ask them to be very thorough in explaining to me how they've exhausted the ways in which it wasn't just learned. Like, you must, in the same way I would with a client, like, I've tried everything and I'm still depressed. I'm like, well, tell me all the things that you tried. Let's really get logical with this. Because to me, what I see in science and I see in psychology, I've dated and lived with two published scientists. One was in biology and the other one was in genetics. So I know there's huge prejudice in psychology and there's huge prejudice in biology and genetics as well. You know, people look for what they already believe to be there, and you're not supposed to do that in science. The scientific method is supposed to protect us from that, and it doesn't. And so I'm very suspicious because I'm like, why do you want there to be a biological genetic route to behavior? And I am also concerned about biological and genetic explanations of behavior, because if you look at racism that leads to genocide, there's always that narrative. These people are just lazy. These people are just incestuous. These people are just thieves. These people are just morally corrupt. It's in their DNA, and the only thing you can do is clean out the gene, so it's a genocide. And so I'm skeptical, very, very, very skeptical, but open. Not so skeptical that I reject out of hand. So I don't see any reason to assume that NPD is genetic. I think it's a kind of narcissism to think that it is. Let me qualify that. We think that our personalities are in our genes. I don't think our genes give a fuck about our personalities. I don't think that's what genes do. We think our personalities are important because we think we're important. So with this flesh suit and the ego sat inside of it, the ego's like, well, I really prefer vanilla over chocolate ice cream. I really prefer brunettes to blondes. And I really like rock music and I don't like country music. And, you know, all of this is just like essential to me. It's really essentially me. And I'm like, or it isn't. Or it isn't. If you were raised slightly differently, all these tastes would be completely different. And then you would say, so you're drawing an equivalence between taste and a personality disorder. And I would say, yeah, I am. So much is learned. And I know it is. Because I've been in multiple situations, where I've had it proved to me time and again that what people's behavior is and what their belief systems are is learned. Now, will you see it carried out intergenerationally? Yes. A father will pass narcissism on to a son or a daughter. But I would say, again, it's learned. That's a learned pattern of behavior. So I'm not discounting a genetic element. I don't think our genetics, I think our personality is the fizz on top of the drink. It's not the drink itself. I don't think your genes care. In the way that I don't think your genes care whether you're happy when you marry and have kids. Your genes just want you to reproduce with somebody who's basically healthy and who will survive the birthing process so that the child lives. And then I think as far as genes are concerned, I don't think genes are that bothered. Genes have their own agenda, and they're not, in my perspective, it's not the same as the human ego's agenda. It's like the Richard Dawkins idea of the selfish gene. I buy it. I buy it journalistically. I buy it conceptually. I can't buy it genetically because like, what are we talking about? How are you going to prove or disprove that? But it seems to me to be the case. And so, in a way, my perspective is our genes don't even really give a shit about us. So the idea that like, oh, I'm a Republican because, you know, everybody in my family is a Republican and that it's in my DNA. It's like, it's who I am. These are ego stories. They're stories that make us feel like our preferences are what and who we are. I'm not saying Jordan Peterson makes a good case for it. Maybe other people do. Certain personality types and personality traits will lean towards being on the left, like me. Certain personality types will lean towards being on the right. Certain personality types lean towards authoritarianism, certain to libertarianism. Yes. Do genes play a role in proclivity and tendency? They must do. Babies don't come out with no personality. Puppies aren't born with no personality. So there must be some effect. But I don't think it's... I'm very suspicious. It's because to me it smacks of superstitious thinking. This baby is evil. This baby's a psychopath. I've had people ask me that, you know. What do I do with my psychopathic 8-year-old? I'm like, who the fuck told you that your 8-year-old is a psychopath? What quack? Was he wearing a plague mask and carrying a bell? Like, who does that? I know that they do. I know there's licensed therapists and psychiatrists out there who do that. They'll go, yeah, that child's a psychopath. I just think that is rank quackery. That you can't, because you can't disprove the opposite hypothesis. The child isn't. How would you disprove it? It's impossible to disprove it. So why assume it? That's so lazy. And it's like, well, you know, the kid has brown eyes and, but fair hair, and he's a psychopath, and he will wear a size 10 shoe when he's fully grown, and that's genetics, and game over, kids. What are we, like, okay, so that's it, is it? You've just given up. The child, like, you're pointing out a series of behaviors, and you're saying, those behaviors can't be unlearned or changed, so we don't have to try. Just medicate the fucker. Just medicate the little twat. And I see a lot of that. I see so much. I worked in the education system for years. It's one of these many examples of situations I've been in where I've seen personality is learned. And just medicate the little fucker is a horrendously common attitude of parents, teachers, doctors, institutions who work together to just dismiss. They just dismiss the child. That's it. The child, just medicate him. Just medicate her. You know, it wasn't that long ago. We used to lobotomize them. That's what they did with JFK and Robert Kennedy's sister Rose. They lobotomized her. This millionaire liberal family lobotomized her for being oppositional and defiant. For being a pain, they cut out a piece of her brain. Because they're working from a model of pure genetics. I don't like it, man. I really, really am deeply, deeply suspicious of it. And I'm like, this is going to end up in the next outbreak of fascism that we have will be medically based, and it will be full of stuff like this. It'll be full of this weird, non-scientific, but seems to be speciously scientific collusion. Oh, sorry, not collusion, but like, what is it? Where you just shove stuff it's like Frankenstein's monster. You just shove it together. And there's a bit of evidence for it here, and there's a bit of evidence for it. And I just feel like that child is evil. So I just feel like, you know, Spanish people, I just feel like they are select adjective at random. You know, white people, I just feel like they're all suggest adjective at random. And then the brain goes, oh, there's all the examples of white people being that. You know, do you remember, like, all the times we're white? The fuck, it's true. Great. That's science, is it? That's science, but reading tarot cards and doing astrology is ridiculous. Okay. I can't fight anymore, man. I'm just like, yeah, fine, man, whatever. But I'm not saying that children are born blank slates. They're clearly not. They come out with little personalities, for sure. The more time I spend around really young children, the more I see that. And as I say, like if you've ever had a puppy, or seen a puppy litter. There's different proclivities from the jump, but it's not the same thing as saying you have a genetic tendency towards narcissistic personality disorder, which, just to conclude this with, you can't prove is not a purely culture-bound syndrome. You can't prove or disprove it. And honestly, if we were going to say, if all of us together, you can do these collective intelligence things where you work together as a collaborative group, and then you like exponentially accelerate the amount of intelligence and problem solving in the group. And we said, there's 610 people watching now. 610 people are going to dedicate a year of their lives to gathering data and applying the scientific method. There's the unlimited resources. It's all being backed by a crazy billionaire. Answer the question, is it more or less likely that narcissism is a culture-bound syndrome? I would say with 95% certainty that we are going to come to the conclusion that it's a culture-bound syndrome. Because I don't even think it would be that hard to disprove the negative hypothesis of that. Because you'll be able to find cultures that are still alive and well today, where it just doesn't exist. It's just not there. Where that as a cluster of traits that is a model that survives across time and context, well, it doesn't survive across time and context. Here's a time and here's a context where it doesn't exist. So, we summon these things into being. It doesn't mean they're all wrong. It doesn't mean the models are all useless. But I do think we fall in love with our models. Especially, it's a very Western way of doing things. You find a model that works for something, and then you totally over-apply it. Like we're like kids with toys. I love this toy gun. I'm going to play every game with this toy gun. And it's like, you're playing the wrong game, kid. That's not the right toy for that game. And I think that we do that a lot. We fall in love with our models. We completely over-apply them. You can't tell. Like, show me the scientist who's scrubbed of ego. It's his model. It's her hypothesis. She wants to prove it. I had terrible problems in my relationships with these girls who were scientists. Well, no, that's not true. In one of them I did, and in the second relationship, for all of her other faults, she was very brutally honest about science and what she'd been up to and her professors had been up to as far as... And she said that she worked with a world-famous professor in a particular niche. She said that he told her, we can make the numbers dance. We can make the numbers we've been collecting dance. I'm shit with numbers. I'm shit with statistics, and I'm not interested and I hate it. But she tried to explain to me, they could collect data, and they would truthfully input the data, but that he had different, I think she said there were different statistical programs you could run it through, and different methodologies. And she said you could go up, down, left, right, prove, disprove. You could make the data dance. Maybe it's hyperbolic. Maybe it's an absurd exaggeration. But even if it's only 20% true or 30% true, you can see problems. You can see problems there. In the other relationship, the girl was a complete biological determinist and thought that the Human Genome Project, I was dating her back in 1995, 96, and she thought the Human Genome Project was going to map every single gene that we had for every single preference, sexual, political, choice of ice cream and everything. But we all know how that went. We all know how the Human Genome Project was like this big fanfare on the way in and a little on the way out, because they didn't find anywhere near what they thought they were going to find and map. So nobody asked for a lecture on genetics and personality disorder, and I'm not qualified to give one. And yet we just did that, and a lot of you sat through it for about 15 minutes of your life that you'll never get back. Look at it this way. Maybe it helps you to think about other problems in your life. And I'm sorry, people are still sending me money. You don't have to send me money. I'll take a couple more questions and I think I better sign off. Have you ever met a malignant narcissist? And if so, what is your experience with them? It was rough. Yeah. Narcissists are rough. Malignant narcissists. It's rough, man. Yeah, it's hard going. They do what they do. I think you can sum it all up with the parable of the scorpion and the frog. It's often credited as being Greek. It's actually African. Look it up, the scorpion and the frog. Why should we stop watching narcissism videos? Because it's a waste of your time and it won't do you any good. Maybe it would help you in the first 2 or 3 weeks after a breakup. But beyond, nobody should be watching narcissism videos after 6 months. You really are doing something destructive to yourself if you do that. 6 months is a hell of a long time to be steeped in the online culture of narcissism videos. I do not recommend it. It's clearly an addiction for people. It's clearly functioning as like an addiction, a self-soothing mechanism at least, and an addiction for some. And it's rife with narcissists. Like your community, if you hang around the narcissism forums and the YouTube comments and narcissism videos, it's riddled with narcissists. Riddled. Do you think children today are assessed by old measures in mental growth, not tuned into modern upbringing? Yes, they are. And it's not just that the measures are old. It's that they're shit. They're shit. They're shit. And I'm not apologizing for saying that. The way we treat children, and the way we assess children, and the way we educate children, I wouldn't even describe it as barbaric. I wouldn't even describe it as cruel. It's so moronic. It's one of those areas of life where I'm tempted to be like a conspiracy, to present a pure conspiracy theory and say that it's almost like it's deliberately designed to ruin a child's confidence, to destroy their creativity, and to model their ability to think. If you didn't spend most of your education disassociating and fighting the urge to dissociate, you must have been a better child than me. I hated it. But I love study. I love studying. I love reading books. I love to learn. But it was done in such a disjointed, incongruent, upsetting, pointlessly torturous way. I fucking hated it when I was a kid. And it was useless. Useless. Our education system is a load of wank. And it's such a waste. We're wasting... God, you don't even want to think about it. You don't want to think about the potential we're wasting every day with our current education system. Reform? No. No reform. No reform. No reform for the education system. It's just got to be completely scrapped. We have to start again. It's awful. So if you layer on top of that like bits of psychology, half understood psychology, very old-fashioned psychology, or frankly junk quackery psychology, a desire to give everybody drugs and make money off it, it's a real mess. It's a real mess. So I wouldn't just say old-fashioned. I would say it's just junk, because to say it's old-fashioned means that the old ways were bad. But it depends on what you mean by old. It depends on what you mean by old. I mean, if you go back in time, further than the Industrial Revolution, you can see good education, but you couldn't democratize it because it's high resource. You need like a tutor, and you need to be learning with less than 4 other kids. And you might have maybe 3 or 4 tutors, but you'll have one main tutor who needs to be an pretty exceptional human being. And it's very tough. It's very, very tough. I don't really have, wow, that's not true. I can offer you a democratized education system that could be applied, and the redundancy that would be built into the courses would be that even if the teachers delivering it are not that bright, or they don't really understand it, the kids will get it. And that's what I used to do. I used to design courses for the education system that were rated through the roof by children. Rated through the roof. The kids loved it because I was giving them what I wanted when I was a kid. And you know what they did? They fired me because I can name names now. It's long enough ago. They wanted me to work for a government project called Aim Higher. They wanted me to go into schools and tell kids that if they got a university degree and got into loads of debt, they would earn more money. And I was like, I'm not doing that because it's not true. And this is a scam to get kids indebted to the Student Loans Company, which is a government body, to the tune of tens of thousands of pounds at the beginning of their lives. So they just got into debt slavery straight away, straight out the gate. And then the other factor was that the creepy lady who was handing out the jobs tried to have sex with me, and I didn't want to have sex with her, and they went, off you won't work with aim higher. You won't fuck who you're supposed to fuck. Off you pop, lad. And that's the real world, kids. It's not puppy dogs and rainbows out there. I'll take one more question. Yeah, ew is right. She got me in her car, in her Mini, and we were delivering a new course that I'd created, and she was like, I'm going to deliver this with you. And I'm like, I don't usually do that, but okay, I'm going to come with you. And she said, we got in her little car, in her Mini, and she was like, Richard, the hotel tonight, I've only booked one room. And I went, well, there's two of us. And she then tried to come on to me, and I fell about laughing. I went into fits of hysterics because I thought that she must have been joking, and it was a joke that I just didn't understand. I did not go over very well. Did not go over very well at all. One more question. Would you discuss the FB community you ran into in the last 48 hours and the route to take through that mud? Okay. So I interviewed David Icke, which I've been organising for 2 years, and I've been reading David Icke since I was 18 at least. So I was very nerve-wracking for me, and it was emotionally tiring. We were supposed to do an hour, and we ended up doing 2 because he was happy to stay. I was happy to have him, and then we chatted for another 20 minutes afterwards. The feedback on YouTube was about as bad as I expected it to be. It was largely good and a lot of support. Very happy with that. Went to Facebook and I looked at top, I think on Facebook they rank it by most relevant comments. And it wasn't that people were attacking me or David or the interview, which I totally expected. It's the way they were attacking each other. And because I only skimmed and I was already tired, I thought that the whole thread was just people just mauling each other personally. I was appalled. Like, it's actually not as bad as I first thought, but if you go and look on that thread, the way people are speaking on there is just not, it's just not acceptable for adult humans to talk that way. You just can't, like, we don't have a future as a society if that's what middle of the road normal people are doing with their time, is talking to other humans like that. We're really fucked. And I'm disconnected from it. So it was another shock. I don't use Facebook. And I suddenly went into this, like, I don't know if you saw the film Mother, ! With Javier Bardem and Jennifer Lawrence. But I got into this image of the scenes of marauding humans in Mother's house in Mother. It's a good film. It's a hard film. It's quite disturbing. It's very disturbing. Aaron Aronofsky is not a fan of humanity, it seems. But that's what I saw. It was a dramatic interpretation, and it wasn't accurate, and I think it was because I was just tired. But it's somewhat true. And in that instant, I was like, oh, I can see the division and the hostility and the polarization and the extremism because of the way, like, people are talking to each other like they're criminals or the worst human, Emma says to Sarah, well, you would say that, Sarah, you fucking, yeah. And I'm like, you're just having a disagreement of opinion. Calm down. Where's all this loathing coming from? It was way over the top. And it made me think of the sort of the latter quarter of Mother, which is a weirdly predictive film, actually. I went back and watched some of the scenes today. If you look at the police raid and the sound of the police raid and what happens, it might remind you of something, of a recent event in the news. If you're sensitive, don't watch it, because it's tough. It's really tough. It's violent. It's violent physically and it's violent in emotionally. It's hard. So yeah, that's how I felt about that. Wasn't as bad as I first thought, but it's still, I still maintain it's totally unacceptable. Like that can't be normal. That wasn't happening. God, I don't remember when it came off Facebook in 2014. That's not okay. It's not, and if any of you do that, by the way, please don't do that. I'm sure most people who follow me wouldn't do that, but that's not okay. Don't do that. That's not a hobby. That's not a valid expenditure of your time. To speak to, it doesn't matter what their opinion is. It's not okay. It's not okay, and you're not making the world a better place. I assure you, you're doing far more damage than you realize when you do that. You're really tearing at the fabric of reality. You're really pulling at the seams. It's not. It might feel fun and like a bit of jouissance. You just spill your frustration. And you fucking, you identity group X, fuck you, ha ha. You know, but it's at a cost to you and to everyone. To you and to everyone. Don't do it. Don't do it. I understand, but please, like, it's not a way for adults to communicate. It really isn't. I wouldn't even say spread the love, man. I wouldn't even say that. I'd say spread the respect. Let's just try and get some boundaries back. Just be polite, be respectful. You know, don't be a pushover. You don't have to engage with people online. If you don't like something, just watch something else, right? There's all kinds of stuff to watch. The other thing it reminded me of is 1984, the 15 Minutes of Hate. You know, they stand there and they see the enemy. Who's the enemy? It's kind of, I think he's based on Trotsky. What's it? Goldberg is on the screen. Like, I fucking hate you. 15 minutes. And it's practiced. It's practiced, conditioned hatred that they do every day. 15 minutes of hate. And anything that you practice and condition like that becomes an addiction. So like taking a shot of caffeine in the morning. When you don't take it, you miss it. Be careful. Be careful. There are many drugs, many things that don't seem like drugs actually are drugs, and they're more powerful than crack or cocaine. Be careful. So, ladies and gentlemen, you have spent your time and attention with me, and I really appreciate that, because this is the most valid resource that you have. This is a currency with no refunds, and it's the most powerful resource you have. So, thank you. I really appreciate you spending that time and attention with me, and I hope that I've made it of value to you reciprocally. And I hope that we can do this again sometime soon. Ladies and gents, thank you very much, and I look forward to speaking to you soon. Cheers.